Welcome to the program, everyone. I am Amarachi Ubani. U.S. President Donald Trump's travel ban on 7 Muslim-majority countries remains defeated for now, until, of course, he tries to defend the ban at the Supreme Court. But even that is not casting stone, because the court can decide whether or not to accept the case or reject it. And obviously, infuriated Donald Trump says the ban will be headed to the Supreme Court soon, and he intends to win. Realizing this could take a while, it appears the president has been advised to go a different direction. He told reporters on Air Force One over the weekend that a brand new order could be issued as early as Monday or Tuesday. We remember last Thursday, the U.S. Appeals Court said the Trump administration did not offer any evidence to justify the ban, though the government has been saying it is all in the interests of national security. As you know, there have been no terrorist attacks on U.S. home soil perpetrated by refugees or people from any of the countries on President Trump's list. Nonetheless, President Donald Trump says he intends to prevent it from ever happening, which seems like a good thing. But as expected, some of these countries are fighting back. One of them is Iran, which has promised tit-for-tat diplomacy and is defying even U.S. police powers when it went ahead to test a ballistic missile last Sunday. Iran may not be friends with the United States right now, but we're just as interested in its relations with Nigeria and its program of developing nuclear activity, which it says is for peaceful purposes, as expressed in this interview between my colleague Gloria Almezoke and the Iranian ambassador to Nigeria, Morteza Rahimi Zarchi.
So let's have your description of the Iranian-Nigerian relations.
You know that Iran and Nigeria are two important countries, one located in West Asia and the other in West Africa. The relations between Iran and Nigeria is more than 40 years old. These two countries have had very close cooperations in international organizations such as United Nations, Gas OPEC, OPEC, D8, and other international institutions and organizations. During the past decades, we have exchanged the Nigerian and Iranian presidents to each other's country. The very recent travel of His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari happened in November 2015 for the gas-producing countries summit in Tehran. We had the official visit of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Iran, heading a delegation of business people to Nigeria. You may be aware that the Islamic Republic of Iran have got very good experiences and capabilities in different sectors such as construction, pharmaceutical, health and sanity, energy, and so forth. During that time, Iranian and Nigerian capitals of industry made negotiations, very fruitful talks with each other. Here I want to say that the knowledge of the Nigerian from the Iranians and vice versa are very scanty. When they find a chance to visit each other's country, they are going to rectify that sort of knowledge. Iran has adopted very independent policies based on its own national interests. So Iran does not change its own policies because the change of some administrations in other countries.
How would Iran respond to those sanctions announced by the Trump administration?
Unfortunately, in the past also they imposed sanctions against Iran for several times. So fortunately Iran has been able to rely on its own resources and resisted against these sanctions. What it is very important is what Iranian negotiated with other countries and signed a document, very important document, they call it Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, according to which that Iran is going to, some of the sanctions based on that documents will be lifted. Foreign Affairs of Islamic Republic of Iran has recently declared that they are going to take reciprocal acts against what they have done.
So now, we want to find out, will Iran continue to develop nuclear activity in spite of the UN resolution and even the nuclear deal reached in 2016?
As of 16th of January 2016, based on the agreement document, which is called Joint Comprehensive Action Plan, our nuclear activities have been recognized by the United Nations and by the international communities. And those nuclear activities will be kept on going forward. Within the framework of a Joint Comprehensive Action Plan, Iran has been able to approve that her nuclear activities have been peaceful and legal. That's why the same activity will be kept ongoing.
But it violates the UN resolution.
The thing that you are mentioning is related to the former issues. Those times that some international community members were trying to say that Iranian nuclear activities are not peaceful and are not or threatening the peace. It has been clarified that they were totally wrong and they were totally misunderstood.
How well was that clarified? Because even right now, the U.S. is still expressing, disenchantment over the recent activity.
The Iranian nuclear peaceful activities within the framework of Joint Comprehensive Action Plan is going on. And that is why that during the past year, we have exchanged lots of high-ranked delegations coming from different parts of the world, different delegations to Asia, to Africa, to Europe, and so forth.
And do you share a bit of the development of the nuclear activity with other developing countries like Nigeria, for instance, looking to other alternative sources of energy?
The application of peaceful nuclear energy is the inalienable right of any nation. So the countries who have access to this technology have got this duty and assignment through the framework of IAEA, share the knowledge and technology with other relative countries.
In what way is Iran helping Nigeria when it comes to energy in this regard?
So most definitely, if there is a request from the Nigeria posing to Iran, Iran is quite ready to prepare itself within the framework of IAEA to help Nigeria in this sector, as well as in other sectors.
There have been varying reactions to the travel ban, and even with victory at the appeals court, Americans are still protesting the ban, and so are people outside the country. Interestingly enough, for some other asylum seekers, America doesn't seem so attractive anymore. They're all headed to Canada.
Asylum seekers in the United States fearing a worsening climate of xenophobia in the wake of a divisive U.S. presidential campaign, brave temperatures and personal injury on trek to Canada in the hope of safe asylum. And the Minneapolis-St. Paul, Minnesota area, Somali community leader and activists say they've seen a growing number of asylum seekers attempting to sneak into Canada at all costs. The Canadian government claims to resettle refugees to save lives and to provide stability to those fleeing persecution who have no hope of relief. But in Canada, all resettlement cases are carefully screened to ensure that there are no issues related to security, criminality or health. Omar Jamal of the Somali community of Minnesota says his primary concern is tracking down those who try to head north with little resources to make sure they've survived.
Canadian government will take some urgent steps to address these people's plight and concern and very serious issue. I hope we can get their attention to do something about this, not watch people suffer.
Refugees seeking asylum in Canada have been making the trek along the U.S.-Canada border between the state of North Dakota and the Canadian province of Manitoba. Claimants between November 1 and January 25, more than the agency normally sees in a year, most brave the freezing power advocacy organizations are bracing for a greater influx of asylum seekers, driven in part by the contrast between the ruling Liberal government's acceptance of Syrian refugees in Canada with Trump's anti-foreigner rhetoric. Most of these people would enter at border crossings, advocates say, if Canada didn't have a policy of turning many of them away when they do. The 2004 Canada-US Safe Third Country Agreement requires people to apply for asylum in the first of the two countries they arrive in. Advocates argue the agreement inadvertently encourages people to dangerously sneak into Canada and make a claim rather than be rebuffed at the border.
President Muhammadu Buhari has spoken with U.S. President Donald Trump on the phone on Monday. Both leaders discussed bilateral ties. President Trump commended President Buhari for the rescue of some of the Chibok girls, the success in the fight against terrorism, and the military's fight against the Boko Haram insurgency. President Trump said he was working on a new bill that would allow the United States sell weapons to continue to fight members of the Boko Haram insurgency in Nigeria. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin says it is possible he could be holding talks with U.S. President Donald Trump. President Putin did not set a date for the meeting, but said it could take place before the G20 coming up in July. Both leaders have indicated interest in trying to mend U.S.-Russia ties, which fell to their lowest level since the Cold War, after Russia's 2014 annexation of Ukraine's Crimea. Tensions on the Korean peninsula were heightened following the launch of a ballistic missile in the East Sea by the Democratic People's Republic of Korea on Sunday. Experts say the move may be intended to measure how the new administration in Washington would react, but it may bear critical implications for the Republic of Korea too. ROK denounced DPRK's ballistic missile test, calling it a military provocation that destabilizes the region. Security officials held emergency meetings in the aftermath, with the missile launch at the forefront of discussions. The DPRK's claim in January that the country was in its final stages of test firing an intercontinental ballistic missile made this an even greater priority. This was the DPRK's first missile test under new administration in the United States, setting the tone for Korean tensions under President Trump. Meanwhile, President Trump said he would do whatever is necessary to keep America safe, shrugging off an appellate court setback on an immigration case and saying he thought his plan to restrict immigration from 7 predominantly Muslim nations would ultimately be upheld. The Justice Department has not yet indicated whether it will appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. Stay with us on Diplomatic Channel. Still ahead, a conference in Cairo seeks to stop illegal migration, plus how Kenya will be affected if the largest refugee camp in the world is ever shut down. To join us again.